So today will be a bit of a different kind of video, as you can see from the title. A lot is happening in the world. I'm sad, disappointed, angry, but also very hopeful that the momentum this modern civil rights movement is getting might be the start of real change happening. And I want to contribute. As you might or might not know, Muted Week is over. This is where creators were pausing their usual contributions and content to leave space to or highlight Black creators' contributions and create awareness. But I still don't feel comfortable just going on with my usual content like nothing ever happened. So I'm not going to. And I'm gonna do my part. And I think a part of being an ally is to not leave the emotional and educational labor all up to the affected parties only. And since there are a lot of people in the plant community that insist on keeping it plant related, I thought I would do exactly that and explain to you with plants why Black Lives Matter and why I should care. So, for all the people who think this is just drama, doesn't concern them, don't really care, this is for you. But like, all tea aside, I get that some people see the plant community as a bit of a safe haven where they can get away from everyday reality, right? And honestly, we're living through a pandemic and a historical revolution, so I understand if your mental health might not be at its best right now. Caring about an issue means to make yourself vulnerable to heartbreak, and that's scary and it takes a lot of energy. Still, I want to try and ease up the access to these difficult topics of race and the post-colonial experience by utilizing something we all have in common and love already, to show you why you should give a damn anyway. It's also been brought to my attention that there are concerns about me using plant metaphors would trivialize the gravity of the topic. And I get that. But this video is not aimed to explain police brutality in detail, nor am I claiming that I'm showing how systematic racism works with plants, because frankly I wouldn't know how. But know that these things are still real and people are dying from it. Even though I will not be discussing this in this video. Instead, what I'm trying to do is to offer a more comfortable segue to a very uncomfortable truth by taking images and situations most plant lovers are comfortable and familiar with and help them relate those to basic ideas on why Black lives are worth being cared about as well. Because even though it seems easier to just get mad at people for not speaking up, believe me, I've been there. I want to believe it's not coming from a place of malice, but rather maybe confusion why all of this is happening, maybe misinformation, or maybe they just don't know where to start. And ultimately, it is more effective to try and pick them up, encourage them, instead of just being mad at them, I guess. And that starts by trying to make them give a damn. And that's something everybody can do. As Nick Dolly so eloquently put it,
if you can spend nothing else, spend your time educating yourself and opening your heart to other people's experiences.
Alright, so let's start with two of my favorite black foliage plants. The Queen Anthurium herself, 𝘕𝘍𝘰𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃, dark form and narrow form, and the Anthurium crystallinum, dark form. They both have a regular green form, as well as a dark form. Personally, I'm quite happy that I got a hold of the dark form 𝘕𝘍𝗰𝗍, and since I didn't know of the dark form crystallinum, I only have like the regular one that I love just as much. But holy shit, the dark form is pretty. Highly on my wish list. In general, black foliage plants seem to be a bit more coveted and desired in the plant community, since the dark colored ground of the foliage contrasts well with the often bright veins, and it gives them a certain air of elegance and regalness that can easily elevate the whole presence of the room it's in. Now, as you can see, it's normal for people to assign meaning and associations to physically given things in a culturally derived interpretation system, in this case, the aesthetic interpretation of black foliage plants. Interestingly enough, it is essentially the same thing we do when we encounter people. We see physical phenotypical differences. We automatically refer back to a culturally formed, naturalized chain of equivalences that informs us about their apparent character and culture. Then we categorize and treat these people accordingly. And when people talk about skin colors, they don't necessarily literally refer to skin tones. I'm more bronzed in summer than I am in winter, right? No, they are most likely referring to how certain traits, and that includes skin color, hair shape, eye shape, nose shape, stuff like that. They refer to these traits getting encoded within these cultural frameworks. How these differences, these codes are getting epidermized, embed within our skin, and how they are being read and treated according to those codes. It is a common social othering practice that falls back to a basic distinction between us and the others. Now, it is important to distinguish between acknowledging differences that are obviously there and how we encode and assign meaning to those differences. Things do not inherently carry meaning. Meaning is assigned. According to how we assign meaning is how we treat things and is how we treat people. Essentially, we have to reevaluate these chains of equivalences and whether or not we, intentionally or not, might be acting in a harmful or hurtful way. I am emphasizing interpretation and chains of equivalences because they relate to perception, and it is the perception of black people as being inherently dangerous and wild that is getting them killed for the most mundane things. For being a kid, playing in the front yard, for selling water, for being in their house, for existing, really. Black people are experiencing a disproportionate amount of violence because of those invisible biases. And it's not just. And we all know it's not just. Not for George Floyd, not for Tommy Rice, not for Breonna. There's a lot more to it. Stuart Hall further deconstructs the concept of race, ethnicity, and nation within his eponymous book way further. It's really insightful and an amazing read. I can only recommend it, but maybe it's a little bit too much to delve into in this video right now. So let me just TLDR what I essentially want to say with this whole thing by going back to our plant metaphors. If you had both versions of these plants, dark or green form, and you love them and you love them and you want them to thrive, right? You believe you love them equally. You appreciate them for their own characteristic features and for what they can bring into your room. And even though they're obviously phenotypically different, in the end, they're both anthurium plants that deserve the same amount of resources, so they could both thrive, which you would want if you love them equally, which you probably do because they're wonderful plants, right? So don't say, I don't see color. Don't be blind to those differences, but cherish and acknowledge them instead for what they can bring to the table, good and bad. Alright, so now if people say, well, what I mean with I don't see color is that I don't treat anyone differently because of their skin color. I'm actually super anti-racist. Let me tell you that maybe you have to be a little bit more sensitive and a bit more, maybe you have to treat them differently because of the previous mistreatments and struggles they faced due to their skin color. Saying that you're treating everybody the same, everybody is the same to you, is dismissing historical injustice some people have faced for their skin color. If you can understand the concept of individual needs due to previous mistreatments with plants, it should not be that hard to understand the same for people. For example, if you get a plant that has been previously kept in a bad condition, you know you can't just treat it like all your other healthy plants because it's in a weaker state and needs the extra attention, a little bit of extra resources that it has been denied before, in order for it to catch up with the other plants health-wise. In this situation, rather than feeling guilty about someone else's negligence or denying negligence flat out, you'd be prioritizing that plant's health, right? You would be taking responsibility for the plant because you know you have the resources right now to make it healthier. And you're here right now, so why wouldn't you? Similarly, no one is saying that you personally are at fault for the mistreatments Black people and POCs have faced, or that you're personally at fault for the injustice your ancestors might have inflicted. But it's important to acknowledge that it happened, and that you profit from this remnants of an imperialistic system that today's post-colonial society is built on. Instead of feeling bad or flat out denying that these things happened, focus on what you can use, what you've been given, to do better. And if you can understand that not all plants come in the same state and thus have specific needs, might need a little extra love, a little extra care to bloom again, why would you not understand that with people? It's even easier because different than plants, people have agency and a voice, and they can vocally tell you about it. You just have to listen. And in the case of Black people, they've been telling you that they too have been living in bad conditions for like 450 years. So the only way for them to catch up is to first acknowledge that they've been mistreated. And then, if you really think they're equal, they'd be given the resources to catch up. Miss 𝘕𝘁𝘕 𝘍𝘢𝘵 explains this so fiercely and eloquently with a monopoly analogy that I will be linking in the description box if you're interested. It's really worth a watch. In conclusion, saying you don't see color, you treat everybody the same, originates from the assumption that everybody comes with the same conditions and thus should be treated exactly the same to be fair. And that's just not true. During the era of imperialism and colonialization, certain groups of people have experienced several severe instances of historical injustice that influences these groups in socio-economical levels up till today. Class problems, by the way, intersect with these issues. Acknowledging that the playfield isn't level is the first step that allows you to help better it. Alright, let's say you acknowledge that yes, you see color now, different kinds of groups of people face different issues. Why should you care about Black Lives Matter? Why specifically now? Everybody faces adversity. Why are they complaining so much right now?
Well, Karen, maybe it's because people are dying.
Swear to God. Let's say you have a bunch of plants in your room, and for some reason you have neglected a bunch of your black foliage plants, and they're dying right now. They're in desperate need of water. You can see that they're dying. So the first thing you do is to go and give them the resources to save them, right? Because they need it right now, and you want to save them because you love these plants and cherish these plants, right? Your first instinct wouldn't be, oh, maybe let's go water all these plants also, because all plants matter and all plants need water, not just the black foliage plants that have been neglected, severely neglected, because every plant gets a little neglected. Why should they get the extra treatment? It's because they're dying right now and you should save them right now. I think it's pretty obvious where I'm trying to go with this, right? Of course you love all your plants. And yeah, I guess all plants matter, obviously, but you want to tend to those who are in need right now, because they're telling you that they're dying right now. I hope I could illustrate somewhat why saying all lives matter and there are good and bad people in every side is just not furthering the conversation and just derailing from the issues at hand. The Black Lives Matter movement consists of affected parties telling you we are being killed at an alarming rate for no reason and being treated by the government who could stop this like we don't matter, but we do. This is unjust, please stop killing us. This is basically what they're saying. Please just stop killing us. It does not mean that other groups of people don't have issues or that Black Lives Matter more than other lives. All they're doing is raising awareness to a very urgent issue at hand right now. It is their country. They've been born and raised there. You should not get killed in your own country for the melanin in your skin. That's fucked up, guys. I don't have to say that, right? I understand that it doesn't, like, none of my analogies perfectly work out, especially here, because people aren't plants. You can't just fucking chuck them out when you get tired of them and not care. If we would still be working with the plant analogy, these neglected plants didn't just come with the house that you live in, they built it. Anyway, if you really believe like all plants are equal and you love all of them, my point is you wouldn't just give up on them, right? You would take care of their specific needs. Your job is to not let them die. Anyway, I choose to talk about the Black Lives Matter movement, and why it matters right now is because it has momentum, nationally and internationally, that will create awareness and pressure to the according authorities for actual change to happen. If everybody is talking about it, everybody will keep their eyes on it. Besides, it's not like you cannot care about anything else ever again. We can tackle several issues at a time. It's not... Okay, anyway, just keep caring about this one too. Alright, let me illustrate my next point with one of my favorite black foliage plants, the 𝘕𝘢𝘰𝗀𝗃𝗲𝗀𝘀 raven. Now let me tell you a little something about this plant. Not only are color, leaf shape, and growth pattern reminiscent of raven feathers, it is also an extremely sturdy plant and a reliable grower. But as hardy as this plant is, the easiest way to kill it is to overwater it. So, similar to well-intended but malinformed allyship, The worst thing you can do is to accidentally shower the plant or, the Black Lives Matter movement with, let's say, a little too much well-intentioned love and accidentally drown it and kill it. I am, of course, referring to the Blackout Tuesday fiasco, where allies were so eager to perform their own goodness that they accidentally drowned out a vital information channel with black squares. Some say it was not an accident, but sabotage.
That somebody has actually co-opted what the music industry planned on doing and what Amplify Melanated Voices asked non-Black people to do as a means of digital protest suppression. Look, social media is a critical tool. It is a tool to educate people about white supremacy. It is a tool for people to learn about and reflect on their own anti-Blackness. It is a tool for people to be able to advocate on behalf of victims of police violence, racism, and actually do the work that it takes. It is also an important tool for activists and organizers to stay connected, alert people about actions, and alert people about the immediate support that they need should people be jailed, need bail, etc. The idea that Black people are going to be silent in a time when everybody needs to be hearing from us in particular is wild to me.
But yeah, point is, if you truly care about the plant, you will inform and educate yourself first about its needs and its care requirements. And it's not about how much you can express love for the plant. It's about what it needs to grow. It's not about you. It's about the plant and how you can help it thrive. And I get that it can be difficult because the needs constantly change at times, but that's why we have to keep paying attention, even if the hashtags stop and it stops being trendy. That's why I think finding some Black-owned businesses you could support on the regular would be an easy way for starters. Ultimately, we as non-Black people help the most by amplifying melanated voices and leaving space to them versus talking over them. So off the top of my head, I suggest watching Miss Pamela P's videos on the topic if you like plant-related stuff as well. I found 𝘕𝘵𝘃𝗲𝘀 on Instagram very informative. And there are so many more Black educators out there that I will link together with a bunch of useful resources. Oh, together with one of those playlists where you can donate completely for free just by watching the ads. So they're all gonna be in the description box. If you think that Black Lives Matter is an American issue that does not concern you or is not existent in your country, let me tell you that colorism and discrimination, especially against Black people, is a global phenomenon dating way back. If you think this issue is not relevant for your respective subculture, be it plant groups or any other groups, let me tell you that Black people are present there as well and contributing. It is real for them, and it would be very lovely to show some support and empathy for them. Because I don't need to say that, they're people. Jesus. When people say racism is systematic, it means that it is embedded in very subtle ways of our everyday thinking and behavior too. Racism is not only valid if it's overt and aggressive. It works in more subtle ways of othering practices. And it's not our fault, it's how we've been brought up, but it is our responsibility to be better, which is why we need to check ourselves regularly, and which is why we need to be actively anti-racist as well. No matter how small your platform is, normalize empathy, normalize speaking up and taking a stance when it matters. It's even more important if you have a bigger platform and if you don't feel comfortable about openly speaking up against racism, you might want to think about why exactly that is and why you can afford to do so. Some people have no choice but to be political, because their very existence is political. Also, saying let's abolish systematic racism should not, why is this should not be controversial, you know what I mean? And lastly, I just want to say that empathy can be learned. I don't think I used to be a very empathetic person. I think we are culturally being disencouraged from feeling for one another, since feelings are traditionally associated with femininity and thus often frowned upon and being oppositioned to rationality. And it's not true. You can be emotionally involved and rational at the same time. Life is multifaceted. It's not binary. Believe me. And I just want to say that it's okay to change your stance. I have changed my stance on a lot of things after I have received new information and started to listen and educate myself. Art and subcultures do not exist in a vacuum outside of society and history, which is why we need a little bit more respect for one another, a little bit more, not just tolerance, but acceptance. I know educating yourself, informing yourself means getting involved. It means putting in effort into something that will render you vulnerable to heartbreak. And yes, it does hurt to see all those instances of injustice, murder, and to actually care about them when we are being trained to be so desensitized to it. And yes, in a way it would be easier to just say I don't care about any suffering, any injustices, because you know, it's easier to believe you can't make a difference at all, instead of just opening your eyes and your heart to see what's going on. I've been there. But I promise you that it will also help you grow. And ultimately, that's what we're all about here, right? Growing together. Thank you so much for being my friend today and for listening. Please stay safe out there. The pandemic is still going on. And hopefully I'll see you again next time.